Hey, hello once again everyone. Jose here again with another video. This one I've actually been wanting to make for probably 3 months, maybe even more. But originally it was going to be called custom keywords and parameters, but they got away with that and they stopped working on that. So I'm not sure if maybe they were having a little bit of difficulty on the back end getting this to work properly. So they got rid of that and now they just basically created these generic keywords. And we're going to be going over how to use them when you really need to. Just remember that this is a last resort. If you cannot find the keyword or parameters that you guys need in the database and the image maps and everything, then this is when you would come and assign a generic switch or toggle or encoder or whatever in order to accomplish what you need to do for your setup. So I'm gonna go over to the website real quick and we're gonna talk about what this is. But before we go any further, I need to remind you guys that I am not a spokesperson for SimVimX or Real Sim Control. I am just a user just like everybody else, but all I'm trying to do is help out the community by creating these videos, which hopefully will clear up some of the doubts on how to use this system, which I still really firmly believe it is the best easiest way to build a home cockpit. Another thing is that as of the day of this recording, I was on version 2.02 and I had the database version, I think it was January 20th, and the RSC underscore planes database was January 13th. So just so that if something changes in the future, at least you guys have a reference point of what versions I was on when I was recording this video. Alright, so if we go to the website here and we go to the configurator, you'll notice way over here on the bottom left, there's a generic IO. And this right here, this is where we're going to do these generic assignments in order to put whatever commands or data refs you need to assign to them. So they're saying, the best thing would be to look for something in the database or the image maps and assign that and then do the custom conversion for whatever you need. And they also say, of course you can also use something that's totally unrelated, and use that and convert it. But the best thing to do would be to add one of these, and then they want you guys to contact them and say, hey, can you add a keyword or a parameter for this particular function that doesn't exist, and then eventually they would add it. Okay, so let's go over what's available here. So we have generic switches, which is just on and off switches. So when you select these, you can also have a associated LED or digital output with that toggle switch. So here you can choose, what you want to assign to a pin. And then we have below that, we have momentary push button switches. And those right there, you can also have an associated LED or an associated digital output with those buttons. All right, and then you also have 8 generic annunciators, which can be used for LEDs or digital outputs. And then you have encoders. You can have 4 encoders, and then you can assign whatever you need to those. We have 3 position toggle switches or 2-way momentary switches. So when you try to select one of these, you can select if it's one of those that you go to the left and then it'll bounce back to center. You go to the right, it'll bounce back to center. Or if it's an on, off, on switch that stays in whatever position you throw it to, left or right or up and down. And then you have generic rotary switches. So with these right here, I'm going to show you because that's going to be one of the examples I used. You can select whatever number of pins you are going to use for that generic switch. And finally, you can have displays. The displays, you can select whether you want a 7-segment display or a character LCD. Now in my example here, I'm going to use a 7-segment display just because, as you guys already know, if you saw those other videos, it's much more wiring to connect a character LCD. So I'm going to be using a TM1637. Okay, so if we go to my bench, you can see that I have a couple of components here. First is a 3-position toggle switch here, which is on, off, on. And then I have a regular 2-position on-off toggle switch. And then I have a TM1637 4-digit display, 8-position rotary switch, and an encoder. So we're going to be assigning these 2 right here. I'm going to assign them to the DA62. And then this right here, I'm gonna assign them to the PA30 Twin Comanche. The display is just gonna be a generic, you know, because I really couldn't find any parameters that don't exist already, so I'm just gonna use it as a test. Okay, so we're gonna go over to the plane section, and we're gonna go over to the Diamond DA62/DA42. This is where what I was talking about on the previous video about the DA42 sim. He was having these issues. This is where that's gonna come into play, and I'm gonna use this as an example only, because the parameters for this do exist, but I'm gonna show you how sometimes something that should be working is not working, and this is when you need to take matters into your own hands and do whatever you need to do in order to get it to work. All right, so one of the ones he was trying to assign is this anti-ice level. Well, that's what it's called. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that. I have that on pins number 34 and 35. I'm gonna go ahead and put that there. The other one he wanted to use was this one right here, which is whether you select pumps 1 or 2, but it's an inoperative, so you can't even assign it. So that's where I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna, you know, basically assign it to the one that we're gonna call a generic switch. All right, so but before we do that, I'm gonna assign, I have that little panel 7-segment display here on pin number 30, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that there. It's a 4-digit TM1637, so I'm gonna go ahead and confirm that, and then I'm going to basically put a multiplexer on number 8 for the rotary switch and the encoder. Okay, now we're gonna go over back to systems, and we're gonna go to generic IO, and we're gonna assign that toggle switch. So we just choose the first ones. Now the thing you need to remember when you do this is that if you already used let's say you use a toggle switch for generic switch 1, you need to keep track of that in your mind or in your notes or whatever, so that you don't assign that one again for something different. You need to make sure you use a different one each time. So we're going to use a toggle switch, and I have that one, I believe it's on number 45. So we'll go ahead and put that one there. Alright, so now that's assigned. Now we need to start a new conversion, and once again I'm going to just go through this real quick just so we don't waste any time. So I'm going to add a new plane, and we need to use the actual folder name. So let me go ahead and go to my desktop here, go to my aircraft folder. Oops. Okay, and then we got the Diamond DA62. So I'm going to just basically put rename, so I can copy the name of that and put it in here. And then we're not going to convert an old file, so we're just going to put add, and that's it. So now we can go ahead and do some custom conversions, and this is where it's going to come in handy. So we're going to convert this one first, and because remember the other one should be working by default. Okay, so we're going to go over to the simulator here, and I'm going to open up the data ref tool so I can find those commands, even though I already know what they are. So we're going to go ahead and just put commands for now, and I'm going to throw this switch here so I can see that it's pump aerobas de-ice, pump down and pump up. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I go ahead and put, it's going to be an up and down command. I'm going to put it in here, and I just change the second one to up and confirm. Alright, so now that we have at least that saved, we're going to go ahead and save it. We're going to call it, I'm not sure why it's trying to save it with a 1. Save it as data.config. Now we go back to the simulator, reload the configuration, and here's the error I wanted you guys to see. So obviously you guys can see that I am using version 2.02, which is the latest one, and I have the latest SimVimX DAT file, and it's giving me an error that says that this is not recognized, and that was the problem that DA42 Sim was having. So we can't even use that one. So I just wanted you guys to see that. And so now we go back over to the website, and let me show you something. We got if you go to the de-ice over here, the anti-ice panel, there's a button right here that looks very much like the one we need, which says off, on, and high, basically normal and high for the master anti-ice system. So we can go ahead and try that one, and it's a 3-position switch that we're using. So we're gonna go ahead and put that one in 34 and 35 and replace that other one that doesn't work, that's giving us an error. And we'll save the configuration file, overwriting the old one, and then we can come back to the simulator, and well, I'll get rid of this for now. We'll reload the configuration. So now I go ahead and bring up my camera here. We're gonna just put the input options right here so you guys can see that as well. Alright, so if we flick the switch here, you can see that it's flipping up and down. So that's working properly. And you see that we see the generic switch 1 over here. Now if we try the other one, which is the anti-ice master, which used to work before, you can see that it's not doing anything, right? So we would need to convert that one. But we don't really want to convert it because the whole purpose of this video is to show you how to use the generic ones. So even though yes, I would use the anti-ice master and I would convert it, I'm just gonna do it a different way just because I wanted to show you guys how to use this generic. So we can choose a generic switch, and it's a 3-position toggle switch, and we're gonna put it on number 34 and 35 and replace that anti-ice master that's not working. So now we'll click on that one, go to convert, and we need to find out what the data is for this, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the simulator again, and let's go ahead and clear this out, and we'll throw this switch. Okay, so then we can see we have a Aerobast de-ice main up and down. So, but this is one of those that also has a data ref associated with it because it needs to know what position it's in, right? And I've talked about this before on the other videos. So we'll go ahead and copy this one here, go over to the configurator, and it's going to be up and down commands, but you can see that it asks for data ref also. So we're going to go ahead and paste those right there. It's basically down and up. And then we need to find the data ref for that. Okay, so in order to find the other part of it here, we'll just leave the de-ice in here, and we'll throw the switch. Okay, and you can see that there's a data ref, this one right here called switch main. It switches from 0, 1, and 2. And then when it's in the middle, it's on 1. You need to know that. So we'll go ahead and copy that one here. We'll go back over to here. We'll paste it in there. And we don't need to put anything in the data ref index, but we do need to put the center value. So we'll go ahead and put that in there and save the configuration file. And remember, I already went over a lot of this stuff in more detail in previous videos, so go ahead and check those out. Alright, so now we go ahead and go back to the simulator, reload the configuration file again. Okay, there we go. It's back. So now if we get the switch here, it's in the middle right now, so that matches with what we're seeing here on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and flick it down. This one is actually up, so it would be, the switch would be like this, and so then it's up, middle, and down. So that conversion is working fine. But as you can see, it wasn't working with the one that should have been working, and it wasn't working with anti-ice master. So that's why I just used that as an example to assign a 3-position generic toggle switch. Okay, so that's it for this airplane. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do one for the rotary switch, for the display, and for the encoder. Okay, so let's go back to the configurator, and we first of all we need to add a plane, you know, that we're going to use that conversion for. So we're going to go ahead and add a new plane, and I need to get that folder name of that particular airplane, which happens to be the Twin Comanche right here. So I'll just put rename, copy that name, and put it in here and add, because we're not converting an old DAT file. So now that this one is selected, we can go ahead and start the conversions for that one. So we're gonna put a encoder. I think I have that one on this multiplexer number 8 on 14 and 15. So there's a generic encoder 1, and then we're gonna put an 8-position generic rotary switch on 0. And right here is where you choose how many positions you want. So we have 8, so that's what we're gonna put in there. Okay, so now that we got that in there, now we're gonna go ahead and remember I had already assigned a display right here, so on number 30. So we're gonna go ahead and use generic display 1, and we're gonna use a 7-segment display, and we're just gonna basically go to pin 30 and assign a new entry, and that's it. We're just gonna put done. For the encoder, we need to find out what the conversion that we need to do for that one is. And remember, once again, when you're going to start adding things for the conversion, you need to make sure that the proper airplane is selected right here before you make the conversions. Otherwise it'll go to a different airplane, and you won't know. You'll have to look back and see which one you put it on. So we're going to go ahead and go to multiplexer number 8, and we're going to do the encoder first and hit it convert. Now For this particular one, I was really trying to find something that wasn't in the database already, in the pictures, you know, the image files. So I decided just to go ahead and do the clock right here. So this one, this little encoder right here. But this one, not only does it change the clock, it actually changes the time of day. So if we go, you've seen that it came up already right here. So it's sim operation time up and time down. Now this right here is a standard explain command, you know, but there used to be that you can change the cloud layers, the wind layers, the time, and some other things related to explain, but I think they got rid of that too. But once again, just for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to use this one right here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy one of these right here, copy the name, then we can go ahead and go back over here, and it's going to be an up and down command, so we'll go ahead and paste it in there, and then we just basically have to switch one of them to up. Now remember, if you get these wrong, you can always come back and reverse them, or you can use the inversion in the input options within explain. So we'll see how it ends up like that. So we'll go ahead and confirm it. Now for the generic switch, this is going to be an interesting one. You see, if it has multiple commands, we put that it was 8 positions, so it already has 8 positions. But you can also use up and down commands or a data ref. So we're going to go ahead and see. I believe this one, I already went through the process. This one is up and down commands with a data ref. And you'll notice that a lot of these have that right there. I'm not sure why that showed up, maybe because I already had that. So go ahead and get rid of that, and let's go back to the simulator, and we're going to go look at this. Okay, now for this one right here, for the rotary switch, I'm trying to use it for the exhaust gas temperature or cylinder head temperature select. So as you go through the different cylinders right here, you can see that, you know, the temperature changes depending on that cylinder. So that's what I'm going to use the 8 position rotary switch for. Now you can see right here that it has COM VFA cylinder select down and up. So those are the commands associated with it. So I'm going to go ahead and copy one of these and paste them in there, and then we just have to switch one of them to up, and then we need a data ref associated with that too. So if we go back to the simulator, I'll give you a hint. I wasn't able to find anything related to cylinder head temperature positions or anything like that. So this is actually a very weird one, and it starts with VFA because it's V-flight air. So if I move that switch, but I have to go to obviously commands and data refs or data refs. Now if I move that switch, you can see that we got this VFA switch 31, and as we go through the different positions, you can see that number is changing right there. So that's the one we need for the data ref, and there's 8 positions. So we'll copy the name, come over to the website, paste it in there. Okay, now here's the funny thing. If you go to the place where I showed you guys about the different data that you require for the different switches and buttons, it shows, this one only shows value, and it shows an example that has 4 values. But I already tried it with just putting 8, and it didn't work. So, and I already tried it putting 1, 2, 3, 4, but it was backwards. So I happen to know that for this one is going to be 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 1 in order for it to work. And like I said, I'm just taking some shortcuts just to try to make the video not too long. Alright, so go ahead and confirm it, save the configuration file, and yes, I want to replace it. But you know what, I actually forgot we still had the display to mess around with, right? So we'll go ahead and come to the display. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and put edit, and we're just gonna put some text in here. Alright, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put test, because that's what I tried before, and I'm gonna show you something interesting, but I just gotta go through this process so you can see the whole thing. Go ahead and put save again, and then we can come over to the simulator again. You see what I was talking about? You see how it came up with TES and the T is missing? Now normally it would start writing over here, but it didn't. So what I found is that in things like this, sometimes you just have to go and you have to, like for example on this one, if you shift it from the right side of the display, you know, let's just put 1 because it's only missing 1 character, and go ahead and save it again. Overwrite the same file again, then go back to the simulator and reload it again. And this is what I mean. Sometimes you just have to try different things. You just have to experiment. You just have to play around. You know, you're not going to break anything by trying different things. So just go ahead and figure it out, I guess you can say. A lot of the things that I have found, you know, I just did them by playing around and by testing things. A lot of the things were not even explained in the website all the way, so I just tried it. So there, now you can see that the word test is actually correct. Let's kind of hard to read these because they're so bright. But there it is. So I just had to offset it by 1 in order to make it show the generic text that I wanted to put in there. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test out our switch here for the rotary. Let's go ahead and grab this and go through our... I'm on the very right position right now. So we'll start going to the left. And you can see that it is changing there. And you can see the data ref is changing as well right here. The data ref is changing as I go through all the different cylinders. So it's 4 cylinders for each engine, so that's why there's 8. Alright, so now we'll go ahead and go over to the time way over here, this side, and we'll use the encoder for that. Okay, so this one is backwards. When I'm going to the left, the clock is going forward, and I'm going to the right, it's going backwards. So I can just go ahead and unclick this inversion, save and reconnect, and now it should be the right way. Yeah, so, and this one doesn't move smoothly. It's moved like 20 seconds, I think. Each time it clicks, it moves like 20 seconds. So there you can see that it's getting darker now outside because it's actually changing the simulator time. Okay, so now I added acceleration, so we can actually move it a lot faster. You can see the time of day is changing where the sun is. You can see it got brighter. Alright guys, so I guess that's pretty much it for this video. So as you saw, it's pretty simple to actually just put in there a generic button or switch or anything you need, including, like I said, LEDs and displays, and just assign it whatever custom commands or data refs you need to get the functionality you're looking for. So you know, one of the things between this with generic components and with the ability to change and convert any parameter now, it really is, you know, basically a wide open field now to be able to accomplish anything that we need to with our simulators. But anyways, that's going to be it for this one. I guess it's going to turn out much longer than I was hoping it would. But thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.